everybody. Welcome to Writers with Purpose. This is Mel Vees from Written Words Publishing. At Written Words Publishing, we envision a world where every storyteller, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to share their voice, shape narratives, and impact the world through the written word. And today, our guest will be uh, Anna J. Small Roseboro. She is the author of Writing to Learn Math in Classes. That is a handbook for teachers. I believe it's for teachers, tutors, homeschoolers, mentors, anyone who's trying to teach a child how to learn. This book features strategies for writing to learn that spawn opportunities for collaborative and cooperative learning in class at home. So let's welcome Ms. Roseboro to the stage with us.
Thank you.
Yes,
Uh,
welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's interesting to hear someone else talk about a book that I've written and give the reasons that I wrote it. But you did ask me to tell a little bit about who I am. Believe it or not, first and foremost, I'm a child of God, but I'm also a wife and mother. And I've been teaching classroom teaching since 1987, that I have sort of returned to the classroom. Prior to that, I did some teaching as my children were being born and growing up. In fact, my first job was in 1967, where I was teaching in St. Louis, Missouri. And one of the things we were required, even for eighth graders, was to teach handwriting. At that time, I thought they were a little old to be learning to handwrite. And it was not until I began doing my research for a master's that I learned that handwriting itself is a heuristic. That means the actual physical act of handwriting stimulates the brain. And so I wanted to make certain that that was just not someone throwing something out for us to consider. And so for my master's thesis, I asked my math teacher, an algebra teacher, will you try this out? Will you see this really works? That if students write regularly, they will recall more of what you teach. She did it for a year. And so when I did my master's thesis, I wrote a handbook of the strategies that she and I had used. And one of the things that was interesting, I decided to sit in on the class because I've never been a very good math student. So one period, I'm the teacher of English. The next period, I'm the classmate of my students, many of them doing much better than I. But I had an opportunity to see firsthand what it's like to write regularly, to learn math in class. And almost 30 years later, I met a young lady who was struggling to teach her geometry students. And I said, I'll listen to you, but I don't know that much about it. But I did write this handbook a few years ago. Let me pull this out and see if it works for you. So 2 years ago, she began to implement the strategies. Not only did her confidence as an educator rise, but also the performance of her students. And that's when I decided to republish the book, and we call it Writing to Learn in Class, in Math Class. And the issue is, it's the writing in class. Thank you for putting it up because it turned backwards when I put it up. It's the writing in class, not for homework, not for writing short stories, not for essays, but the act of physical writing that makes such a difference. And so that's the reason for this book. And that's why I'm glad that you invited me here, because writing with purpose does make a difference.
Yes, yes. So I'm curious to know. So writing to learn math is what exactly would a student be writing besides numbers to learn the math? Like, are they just like handwriting out the math problem, like writing one PLUSTWO equals? Like, what is the concept behind that?
It depends on the reason for writing. Sometimes they begin with something called an admit slip. The beginning of the period, the teacher would hand students a piece of paper, or my classes, they did a journal. Pull out your journal, put today's date at the top, and tell me what about yesterday's homework challenged you. They admit it. What about the lesson yesterday that you still have questions on? They write words for that. Was there any particular problem in yesterday's class or homework that you were not able to answer correctly or answer? They would write that. Then they would turn and talk. Sometimes they would turn to the person on their left or on their right, but they would turn and talk. And as the students began to talk about what they had written, it began to become clear to them that my buddy here knows that maybe he can help me. She got it. Maybe she'll tell me. The place where it came in particularly handy was with evolving English learners. We think in our home or heart language. So when students read in English, they translate into their home language and then back out into English. If they have had that time to think about it and then to talk about it, then write about it and then talk about it, they're usually more comfortable articulating what the issues. And that's where the collaboration comes in class. So admit slip. There are 16 activities in the book, and I won't go through them all now, but if you have a particular kind of thing, I'll tell you some that are perhaps a little more unusual, and families may be able to use them at home.
So, what grade level do you find this works good from early reading and writing all the way through high school? At what point would somebody implement this into their lesson plan?
That's two questions. What is my experience? The earliest is sixth grade. However, if there's someone working with younger students, I could see them being able to adapt it, where you would say, maybe the purpose might just be to learn the vocabulary. And so you might ask them to write a sentence using the vocabulary words of the math that they are currently teaching. The reason is most of them have to do story problems. And as they read the story, they have to know the grammar because a preposition will make the difference in whether you add or subtract, multiply or divide. And so by doing this daily writing, students are exploring the vocabulary, they are using it, and if they can't, they're not graded down for it because it's not a test.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So, do you find that the school systems, either public or private, homeschoolers, are open to change their curriculum or add this to their curriculum?
Good question. Because I was at a university in Southern California when I was doing my master's, the teachers, the professors in the program were so excited about the results that they invited me and the teacher from my school to come do a summer workshop for math teachers in the district. And so the teachers were coming to the summer program. They were being paid to be educated, and sometimes they would come with their knitting. But on the days we were teaching, they put down that knitting and started writing, started doing the activities. That was in the summer. In November of that year, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics Teachers invited us to come and present at their national convention. So, since this book has come out, I've noticed there are more books and publications and postings about writing to learn in math. And since this book just came out 2 weeks ago, I don't know how much of the nation is going to use this particular book, but I know more are thinking about the fact that writing in and of itself is important. And because I was going along with this theory, 2 weeks ago, I visited one of the classroom teachers who helped me with another book about writing. And I said, let me make a song that'll go with this, that the kids will be able to remember. And so I wrote the value of writing by hand. It says, writing helps me think. Writing helps me to remember what I need to learn. Writing stimulates my brain, helps me keep what I am learning stored within my brain. And I had the students read that from a slide on the board. Then I put on some music with a beat. And by the end of the period, the students were saying, writing helps me think. Writing helps me to remember what I need to learn. Writing stimulates my brain, helps me keep what I am learning stored within my brain. And that's one of the things I showed them. This is one part of the brain, but the part of the brain that stores what you remember is back here. And so they had to do the gestures. Writing helps me learn. Writing helps me think. Writing stimulates my brain, keeps what I am learning stored within my brain. So I don't leave it to writing. You've got to get some music in there too.
That's a pretty neat idea. Have you thought about creating a cartoon video? You know, have you seen those videos? They have those videos on YouTube Kids. Those kids, they watch them with the songs and they singing them over and over and over and over and over again. You get the character to do the motions. Have you thought about doing that?
I thought about it, but I don't know how. The closest I came was the teacher sent me a video of the students singing that at the end of the period. And she said the next day they came in, they wanted to know, Miss Speaker, can we sing that song? You know, and then they started singing it. So maybe that's something to think about.
I think that is something to think about. Well, if you decide you want to do that, I do happen to know someone who knows how to create videos like that
Okay.
using AI,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also a music producer, so he can create the music for you also. If you like, we can talk about
Aha!
that.
Well, I used the music of Ben Sound, BenSound, which is a company that does public domain music. In
Mm.
fact, I use that in most of my podcasts for that reason. But if this person that you have in mind is someone who would do the video and the animations and the music at a price I could afford, but if you will put me in touch with this person, I'd be glad to look into it, mainly
Yes,
because
I
you
will.
got so excited.
Oh, definitely. Because I'm thinking about a video that he created. He created a couple of videos like that and put them on YouTube Kids. Where he like changed up the story for the Itsy Bitsy Spider and put a beat behind it and created the video with the little spider and everything. And there's some other character. Anyway, I invited him to come be a guest on the show because he is actually an illustrator that we use for a few of our children's books. One of the authors wanted AI illustrations. That's what
Mm-hmm.
he requested, and he
Mm-hmm.
did a marvelous job with that. So he is multi-talented, and yes, I'll bring him on the show and have him talk about all the stuff that he can do, and I'll definitely hook you up with him. So that is awesome. Well, let's see. We know that, yes, to let everybody know where they can find you and find out more information, where they can purchase your book.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. One of the other strategies that this particular approach to teaching endorses is we're always talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity. One of the assignments invites the students to write a letter to someone explaining what the student has learned that week in math, in algebra, or geometry. And we invited the teachers to display pictures of people from different cultures, races, genders, even countries that use math in their jobs. Because when students realize that there is a practical reason for learning algebra and geometry and mathematics, they tend to think of it more seriously than this is another class I just have to pass. And so by just displaying a picture of men, women of different ages, different genders, different races on the board, you are supporting the variety of students that many of us have in our classes now, but also letting them know that people earn a living using math. And some of the students may be able to do better in job searches if they become a little more confident in their use of mathematics.
Yes. Okay. I was just looking at the comments here.
Oh,
Somebody commented that it sounded like I had a echo. So let's hope that that wasn't the case.
no, I could hear it too, and I figured you'd get it taken care of.
So you can still hear it.
No, I don't hear it now.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay.
do.
Hmm.
Mhm. I would
Okay.
be interested in knowing if someone who's in the audience, if there is some aspect of what we're talking about that they have questions about.
Yes, anybody who's watching live, because we are live right now on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I can see the comments here, and I don't see any more comments. Now would be a perfect time. Oh my goodness. Yes, that would be a perfect time to ask any questions. Well, you can let us know, where is your book available for purchase?
My book currently is available on multiple online bookstores. I primarily work with Ingram Sparks and Amazon, primarily because Amazon is a place many people go to start looking for a book. But few who do that uh, need to buy it for a store. And people who are buying for the store want to be able to return books that for some reason are unable to sell, but they're available there. And the person who published my book is Luminescence LLC. And this happens to be a gentleman who translates uh, Bible, untranslated Bible works. And we met at a book thing for Barnes and Noble, and he became interested in my writing. And since that time, he has published two of my books. But yeah,
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, we thank you so much for being a guest on Writers with Purpose. I apologize for the echo. I will figure out what is causing that so we don't have it again. And I hope that that didn't ruin our interview. I see here where somebody put a comment in the chat.
okay,
I had to learn my
okay,
12 times tables for my last job.
okay. Thomas Paul, I will ask you to do a review of this book, and we might be able to come up with a decent exchange for that, where you indicate why it's important to know math. And you're talking about funny things. We sometimes have the students sing the times tables, but uh, knowing that you had to know it for your job is one of the activities we ask the students to do. Who do you know has to know math to do their job? And for geometry, from people who lay tiles to people who install carpet, we haven't just had look around the classroom and write what you know that someone, thank you, Thomas, that someone needs to know math in order to do something in this classroom. Then go look out the window. Think about the fields, the athletic fields. Write a math problem to tell us what we need to do to reinstall X, Y, or Z. And when they write it and they tell it to their friend, their neighbor, their classmate, and the classmate's got to do the problem. And that's another way of writing to learn math in class.
That's
Aha.
mm-hmm. That's true too, and I think that it's also a good way for the students to communicate and interact. Because
Yes.
nowadays, a lot of these, youngins, they don't even want to have any type of communication with each other if it's not digital, electronic, via a video game or their cell phone. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and you have to speak, you have to interact with people. You need that human interaction. So that's a great way to get the students to open up. It might be good too for the chatty kids that like talking anyway. At least
Ah,
now they have something decent to talk about.
okay. And that's another one of the strategies. After they have written it, they're invited to go up to the board and show the class how they solve the problem, or sometimes to create a problem and then write the word problem. None of this is collected or graded for anything but content. There's one called the exit slip, where the teacher will ask students, what is something you understand better today because of what we did in class today? What is something you still have a question about? Write it. And as they leave the classroom, they hand it to the teacher. No names on there. The handwriting itself stimulated the thinking of the students. The decoding of their scrabbly handwriting helps the teacher be better prepared to teach the next day. And so both the teachers are learning and the students are learning when writing is done in class.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, there you have it. It sounds to me like writing to learn. What is it? Writing to learn math. Let me get it right.
In class.
Writing to learn math in class. Yes, y'all.
Mhm.
Tell your teachers, tell your friends, your parents. It seems to me like, this will probably even help if you're trying to. I always hear stories about how, they changed up the way the kids do math nowadays, and a lot of the parents are confused because they taught the kids different and it's not the way the parents learned. Well, maybe that's a good way that you can interact and have communication with your kids. Write down what you understand about the problem. Let the
That's it.
child write there with down what they understand about the problem, and then together you all can figure it out.
Mhm,
How-
mhm. That's that is a great idea. And around holiday time, we're encouraging caretakers to get it. Grandparents, have one at your house. When the children come, after they've played their game or before they play. At our house, when students ask, my students ask if they could do something, my grandmother says, say yes as often as you can with a conditional clause. Yes, sure, you can do that. As soon as you write 3 sentences about what you learned in math today.
Now that is a very good thing. I'm gonna have to put that in my pocket to deal with my grandkids. Yes, yeah, yeah. We can go to the store right after you write down what you learned
That's
in
it.
math today.
That's it. That's
Awesome,
it.
awesome, awesome. All right, well, you all can visit Anna's website, teachingenglishlanguagearts.com. It's scrolling around the bottom of the screen. And we want to thank you so, so much for joining us here on the show today, Anna.
Thank you for having me. And thank
Yeah.
you, Tom, for posting the fact that you use math on your job and you had to relearn your timetables.
Yes, thank you very much for everybody that watched and interacted with us. We appreciate it so much. We'll be back with another interview on another episode. But until then, you all have a blessed day. All right.
Amen.
Bye bye, everybody.